There we go. All right. So, I just looked. Nobody has taken the test. Surprise, surprise. The test opened up on Tuesday. It closes this coming Tuesday. Your homework for Chapter 6 and Chapter 7 closes this Sunday night. And like I said, if something's happening and you're going to the mountains or you're sick or what, just let me know, okay? It's okay. I know this is not your only class. I know y'all have a life. It's getting to be the end of the semester and everybody's making everything due. It's okay. Just breathe. It's not the end of the world. Is that transition form?
I finally got one out of 12 who finished early. I got copy finish one and stuff.
You're trying to be like me. He hates on me because I said my fingers are turning blue and green from all the people out there that finish. He never has me to finish. All right, so homework is due this Sunday night. Test closes on Tuesday. But if you just let me know if something comes up, it's no big deal. We do not have classes Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday for Thanksgiving week. So we're going to start Chapter 5 today. And I'll probably spend 2.5 days on Chapter 5, and then I'll spend 2.5 days on Chapter 8, and then I'll spend an entire day reviewing for the exam, and your exam's going to be a week later, okay? In my math lab, under the homework button, you have your 7 and 6 homework closes this Sunday night. You have your 7 and 6 test review to get you ready for the test that closes Tuesday. And we've already talked about that 7 and 6 test review is an awesome way to get you ready for the test. I hadn't even looked how many questions is out there. 75, okay? So we know that there's a couple questions, but there's only going to be one on the test. But I gave you a couple because those are going to be what you need to study. Then, at the very bottom, Chapter 5 and Chapter 8, we're going to do a couple sections out of Chapter 5, but all of those, like 5.1, 5.2, 5.3, they're all in here. And then 8.1, 8.2, 8.3, whatever I do is all in here. This is to get you ready for the final exam. So this is going to have Chapter 1, Chapter 2, Chapter 3, Chapter 4, Chapter 5, Chapter 6, Chapter 7, Chapter 8. So this is going to get you ready for the final exam, okay? The final exam counts the same as a test. All of your tests count 20%. The final exam also counts 20%. So if you click on that, I don't know how many questions there are. There's 115 questions. I know, 115 questions, but it's reviewing everything I've done since the beginning of the semester. Everything since August. Now, I will tell you that this final exam review is harder than the final exam because your final exam is all multiple choice. This is not multiple choice. So on your final exam, you at least got answers to choose from. You can any, mini, miny, moe it. Here, you don't have answers to choose from, okay? But that will get you ready for the test. So everything that's out there is all you have left to do the rest of the semester. That's it. Okay, we good?
After the review that we're gonna do, you said you're gonna be able to put it in here and there, so when we gonna open it?
Now, the final exam, you'll take with me unless we talk about it. So if you want to take it over there, you just let me know when you want to take it. That's fine. Just remind me.
Okay.
Talk to me after class or something because I'm old and can't remember. All right, anything else? Is there anything that I need to go over as far as Chapter 6, Chapter 7? What do you want me to go over? Okay, so that's in the homework review?
It's in the number 7, I think it's 7.4 or 7.3.
In here?
Yeah.
Number 10? So it ain't that one. So number 7.3, number 10?
Yeah.
10 and 11, look.
Yeah.
Ooh, ooh.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, I've already done these, but.
Yes, and those answers don't match. I did go to them, I went to, class,
Did you get the problem?
that's what it is.
Yeah, they changed my system.
They changed the numbers. Yeah.
I couldn't get it.
Yeah, every time you do the problem, they change the numbers, but it's the same setup. Yeah, it'll be the changing of the numbers. And did you see where I put it in the notes? Okay, so what you'll do is pull that up and just type in the numbers from the problem that you have. Yeah, but it'll be the same steps. All right, what else do we need to see for 6 and 7?
Being able to tell the difference in the, coefficients.
The R value? So when you do a problem, and let me pull up, regression worksheet.
That's it, regression.
The regression, linear regression. So when you do a full-on one of those problems, let me just randomly pick, let's pick one we haven't done, we did that one last time. Okay,
I see it now.
all right, let's do, I'm just gonna randomly pick this one. And I didn't write the stuff down, but I can write it as we go. So if you have this problem, and you saw that on the test, I usually wrote it sideways. I wrote it like this, but I told you on the test, this was your X and this was your Y. On almost every single one of them, so that you didn't have to pick. And let me make sure that's what it was on here.
Always L1.
Your X is your L1. Let L1 be the temperature, yes. So your X is always going to be your L1, and this is always going to be your L2. So when I go to my calculator, here are my Germex steps, and I'm not going to give this to you on the test, so you're going to have to know this. So even if you walk into the test and say, I got to know this, when you get that scratch paper, dump that down before you
Oh,
ever.
no, they can take the blue paper in with it?
No, boo-boo.
Kidding me?
No.
I miss it. That's what happened when you miss class.
Yeah.
Miss information.
So you just need to memorize or, write down, I need to know these things. These are the things that screw me up. So that when you walk into the room and they give you the blue paper and you sit down, dump your brain onto the blue paper, pink paper, yellow paper, whatever color it is that day. Dump your brain down. Because when you look at the test, your mind's gonna go blank. So before you ever hit start, you just sit there and write down everything that you think that you're gonna forget. Okay? So, you can't use the blue paper. You're not gonna be told the Germex steps. And I don't care which order you Germex. Okay? So, I'm gonna go to the y equals, and I'm gonna make sure that my plot is black. And I'm going to clear out anything that's in my y equals, okay? Then I'm going to go into my catalog, and I'm going to do clear table. Clear table. And then I'm going to clear my home screen. And then I'm going to do stat edit, and I'm going to clear my list. And now I'm ready to put my data in, okay? So for this problem, again, they're going to tell you what's your X and your Y. So your X is going to be your L1. And your Y is going to be your L2. Okay, and you're gonna screw something up every single time. All right, 2.2 is beside 54 point. Oh, I left out 1.6. 1, 2, 3.8, 1.7. All right, you want to make sure that your lists are the same size because it'll fuss at you and say dimension mismatched. You want to make sure that everything's matched up, so I'm going to do stat edit, put it all in there. And then, if they ask you to look at it, so if the problem says, look at me, you're gonna do Zoom 9. Now, if it doesn't want you to look at me, then you're not gonna do Zoom 9. This is just if they say they want a scatter plot. That's gonna be your Zoom 9, okay? But if they just say, I don't want a scatter plot, I wanna know the linear regression line, the y equals. So, no matter what, I'm gonna have to do the Germix. I'm gonna have to do the stat edit. That's the Pillsbury joke. I'm gonna have to do stat edit, and then I'm gonna have to do my L1, and I'm gonna have to do my L2. And then if they tell me they want the scatter plot, I'm gonna do my Zoom 9, okay? Now, if they say, I wanna know what is the y equals, what is the r value, what is the r squared value, if they want any of those things, then I'm gonna do stat calc, linear regression. So if they tell me they want the r squared, or the y equals ax plus b, then I'm gonna have to do stat calc, linear regression. So for this problem, my r value is gonna be negative 0.304, and it's gonna have an r squared value of 0.0923, which is a 9.23%. And my y equals is gonna be y equals negative 0.0229x plus 3.382. We good? So we got all of that. Now, what kind of R is it? What does that tell me? Positive or negative?
Negative.
Is it weak, moderate, or strong?
Weak.
It's kind of on the weak side because it's not around 50 cents. Okay? So if I need any of those things, I'm going to do stat calc linear regression. If they want me to make a prediction, and there's only one problem that makes you make a prediction. Only one problem. So, to make a prediction, you first have to suck over before you use the table. Because the table goes to the y equals, and it's got to be in the y equals. So to suck over, you're going to go to y equals, and then you're going to hit the bars button, then you're going to go down to number 5, and pull it up so you can see it together. We hit the y equals because that's where we want to suck it into. Y equals, then we hit the bars button, then we hit number 5 to go to statistics, then we go over to EQ. We go over to EQ, and then we hit number 1, which is regression equation. So let me start again. I hit y equals, bars, down to number 5, over to EQ, and then I hit number 1, and that sucks it into the y equals. And the purpose of sucking it into the y equals is so that now when I go to my table, and I type in an x value, whatever that may be. When I hit enter, my 50 is going in here for x, doing the problem, and telling me what y is going to be. But if you don't have anything in here, you're not going to get anything there because this table puts it into this formula. Does that make sense?
Yep. I got it, that's what I needed. Thank you very much.
We cool? Yeah. All right. Anything else for 5 and 6? I mean for 6 and 7. So our homework for 6 and 7 is due tonight. Our test for 6
Tonight.
I know. Our 6 and 7 homework is due Sunday night, and our test is due Tuesday. All right. You come back here. Our homework for 6 and 7 is due Sunday the 12th at midnight, and our test for 6 and 7 is due Tuesday the 14th. Now, the 5 and 8 homework,
Will you be here Monday? Though I can get a calculator. What time?
yeah.
What
And if
time?
you want to get it today, that's fine too. Just let me know after class, because y'all are the only class I let borrow them. So if you want one, all I'm doing is writing your name down and keeping the cover just to remind me to get them back.
All right.
But the 5 homework, which is all of chapter 5, has 38 questions. And then the set 8 homework has 14 questions. So it's not that bad. I'm not trying to kill you at the end because everybody else is. I mean, I killed y'all semester, so I'm not going to kill you at the end. So if you do need to borrow my calculators to do your homework over the weekend or to take your test or whatever, just ask me. I think I have 3 or 4 left.
Okay.
Just let me know. No big deal.
Okay.
Here, I'm not going to use them over the weekend. I got mine on my phone. All right, so that takes care of 6 and 7. Now, chapter 5. And everybody keeps asking me, why do you do chapter 5 and 8 at the end? There's a method to my madness. The author screwed up. They shouldn't have put 5 and 8 where they did. Okay? Chapter 5 and chapter 8 is going to summarize everything that we've done. Chapter 5 talks about what is normal, the normal curve. Recall from chapter 4, symmetry and skewness. So we've already done really chapter 5. We've done left skewed, right skewed, symmetric. So we're talking about that again. This is back to stuff that we've already done. Look, Judy's going. Taking that road. Okay, the road. So we're going back to some stuff that we've already done and we're adding to it. Now remember I said we're not having a test on 5 and 8. You're doing homework on 5 and 8 and you're answering some exam questions on 5 and 8, but you're not having a separate test on 5 and 8. Okay? So what I did is I went into the handouts and study sheet section. And down at the bottom, I have your exam review spreadsheet. Just like I gave you a spreadsheet for the first test, a spreadsheet for the second test, a spreadsheet for the third test, we have a spreadsheet for the exam. So, your exam is 33 questions. Your exam is all multiple choice. It's just not in the order of the spreadsheet, just like all your other ones. So, your exam is going to have 4 questions from chapter 1. It's going to have this many questions from chapter 2, this many questions from chapter 3, this many questions from chapter 4. So, we're in chapter 5. So it's going to have 1, 2, 3, 4. It's going to have 5 questions from chapter 5. Now, what we were just doing, Janae's going to say how many stinking probability questions does it have on the exam?
A lot.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 questions are going to be for probability. You're going to have 2 questions off of regression-y kind of stuff. And you're only going to have 2 questions from chapter 8, which is the very last thing we talk about. Okay? And I really did this based on how long did we spend on each topic. So we spent a good while on probability. We spent a little bit on, and I can't give you a whole lot on regression because that takes a while. So this is kind of the breakdown of your final exam stuff. Okay? So, when I'm teaching chapter 5, I'm going to come back and say, okay, what's on your exam? Because as long as y'all get through the homework and get your 100, mark that off, but let me know what I need to study for the test. Okay? So this is our final exam. What do we need to know for final exam? So, back to 5.1. What is normal? So in the statistical world, we know that this is normal in the statistical world. That's called a normal curve. We call it a normal curve, we call it a bell-shaped curve, we call it a symmetric curve. That's a normal bell-shaped symmetric curve. It's when we have outliers on both ends. It's when the mean, median, and mode are in the hump. We've already talked about this. Then we have the right skewed. The right skewed is when your outliers are on the right. and your mean, median, and mode are a little bit to the right, but everything is still in the hump. Your left skewed is when your outliers are on the left. Everything is shifted a little bit to the left, but it's still in the hump. Okay? Old school stuff. We've already talked about this. And then we talked about the number of modes. This has one mode because it has one hump. This one has 2 modes. This one has 3 modes. And this one has no modes, so we call it uniform. I rolled 3 4s and 3 5s and 3 6s, so it's uniform. Okay? And then we talked about if we have a low variation, and if we have a high variation or wide variation. And we talked about standing in line at Walmart versus standing in line at CVS or TJ Maxx. Okay? So this one is where the grades are close. And this is when our grades are spread out. And you're sitting back going, thank God I know what I'm talking about right now. Spread out. So then we look at this one and it says, do the grades have the same mean? Do they have the same average? Yes or no? Yes. So for this curve and for this curve, do they have the same average? For this curve, do you see your averages over here? This curve, your average is over here. This curve, your average is in the middle. So if this is symmetric, your mean, median, and mode are in the middle, correct? So if I come down here to the bottom, both of those are symmetric curves. So because they're both symmetric curves, your mean, median, and mode are in the middle of the curve. So, what the heck? That was pretty cool. Sorry. So my mean, median, and mode for both curves, mean, median, and mode for both curves are right there. So let me ask again. Do they have the same mean, median, and mode?
Yes.
Yeah. What is the mean, median, and mode?
36.
36. Now, it says one of these curves corresponds to a normal distribution with a standard deviation of 1. The other curve corresponds to a normal distribution with a standard deviation of 3. Which curve, A or B, has a standard deviation of 3?
The white
Oh, standard deviation. Standard deviation is your spread. How far it's spread out. So if you got a standard deviation of 3, you got some spread. If you got a normal standard deviation, you just sitting okay. So the standard deviation of 3 has a larger spread, which means it's wider. It's thick. As my husband said, thick boy. So now my daughter walks around, she's thick boy. So B is going to be the wider one. So B is going to have the standard deviation of 3. And A is going to have the standard deviation of 1. Does that make sense? So A is going to be the more normal standard, and B is going to be the more wider standard deviation. We good?
What's the widest standard deviation you could have if that's a 3?
Way wide.
So what would 2 be?
Just kind of.
And that would still be widest?
Mhm.
So if it ain't like this.
And you can even have skinnier. You can have like a 0.5.
Okay.
So you just have like a normal, wide, skinny, I mean, we can have like a really skinny. Yeah, good question. Now, y'all, I said I wasn't killing you at the end. This is your exam question. From 5.1. If you miss it, I will come hunt you down. The exam question just says, which of the following, and for your exam question, I ask, which one is normal?
B.
I know, for real, for real. If you look on here, it says, select the distribution that appears to be the closest to normal. If you miss it, you deserve to fail. Just saying. This is the only thing in this section that I'm asking you about. Now, for this problem, it says identify the distribution that is not normal. So this one would be not normal because it has a little cattywampus to the right. So that one would be not normal. And this one would be the most normal. This one is kind of going to be normal. C is kind of normal, but it juts out a little bit. But this one is the most normal. Y'all with me? But that's how your test is going to be. Okay. Now, we've done these before. State whether you would expect it to be a normal distribution. So, if I give you we talked about these, and we talked about Disney World, we talked about speeding, and y'all told me whether it was a normal distribution, skewed to the left, skewed to the right. We talked about Alzheimer's, dementia. So, if we have quarters, exact weights of randomly selected quarters manufactured in 2012. So, I just want to know, is it going to be symmetric? Is it going to be a normal distribution? Are there going to be outliers on both sides? So if I was weighing quarters that were manufactured in 2012, or any year, I don't care what year it is, I don't even know what the weight of a quarter is, but whatever the actual weight of a normal quarter is, we know that the majority of the quarters are going to be there. Are there going to be outliers on both ends? Yeah, because some are going to be cut a little bit short, some are going to be a little bit fluffy. You know, got a little piece of gum in them or a hair in them or something. So yes, this is going to be symmetric or normally distributed. Now here's what they say. It is normal. It's common for them such as coins to be normal. There's a little bit above and there's a little bit below. So it has one peak and is symmetric. We good? The incomes of randomly selected adults in America. Is that normal or is that not normal? What would you say?
Not.
Normal or not normal?
Not normal.
Not normal. It says many people have relatively small incomes. Most people are poor. And there's a couple people here, and because it's incomes, I can't go below $0 because it's incomes, it's not debt. So this one's going to be not normal. They're not asking me right now for skewness. They're just saying, is it bell-shaped normal or is it not? So this one's just going to be not normal. The numbers selected in the Pennsylvania Match 6 lottery, in which players attempt to match 6 randomly selected numbers between 1 and 49. Normal or not normal? Anybody else? Normal or not normal? Right. Not normal. The numbers between 1 and 49 we talked about it, it's called the law of large numbers. So if you have the numbers between 1 and 49, if you play enough, and in Pennsylvania, if everybody plays lottery there like they do here, if you play it enough, the probability for each number is going to be 1 out of 49. They should all be equal. They didn't ask me for if it was uniform or left skewed or right skewed, but we're gonna say it's not gonna be normal. It's not gonna look like that. You with me? All the SAT scores from last year, normal or not normal?
No, it doesn't.
I think now it goes from 0 to 2,400. Back in my day, it went to like 1,600. It keeps changing. But if you ask your friends at school, what did you make?